Have you ever learned an English word that seemed simple, but somehow you still kept using it the wrong way?
And what if some of the most common English mistakes are actually very easy to fix once you notice the pattern?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Podcast, where English learning is simple, practical, and enjoyable.
I'm Jack, and I'm here with Sarah. We're really happy to have you with us for another lesson in our 30-day shadowing challenge.
And if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep practicing English with us through these natural conversations.
And to everyone who's already part of our community, thank you for staying with us. Your support and daily practice really mean a lot.
Today is day 24, and honestly, it's hard to believe how quickly this challenge has gone. We've already completed most of our journey together.
If you've been practicing with us since day one, you should be proud of yourself. Showing up every day and practicing a new language takes real commitment.
And today's topic is especially useful because we're going to look at some of the most common mistakes English learners make.
And believe me, even people who speak English every day can still make these mistakes sometimes. So there's nothing embarrassing about making them.
Exactly. In fact, knowing about a mistake is often the first step toward fixing it. So let's start with our first one.
This one is surprisingly common. And once you understand the difference, it becomes much easier to use correctly.
We're talking about the difference between for and since when we talk about time.
Yes. Many learners know both words are connected to time, but they aren't always sure which one belongs in which situation.
The good news is that there's a very simple way to remember the difference. For is used when we talk about a period or length of time. For example, you can say, I have been learning English for 3 years. Here, 3 years tells us the length of time. But since is used when we mention the specific time when something began. For example, I have been learning English since 2021.
So here's an easy question you can ask yourself. Am I talking about how long something has continued or when it started?
If you're talking about how long, use for. If you're giving the starting point, use since.
I love that little test because it makes the difference much easier to remember. Once the idea clicks, you can apply it to lots of sentences.
Let's make it even clearer with another example. You could say, I have lived in this city for 5 years.
But if you want to mention when that period began, you could say, I have lived in this city since I was a child.
Exactly. 5 years tells us the duration, while since I was a child tells us the starting point.
And there's another interesting reason we focus on examples like these. Learning complete phrases can often make grammar easier to remember.
Instead of memorizing one word by itself, you're learning how that word naturally works inside a sentence.
And that's one reason shadowing is such a useful practice method. You're not only learning vocabulary, you're becoming familiar with natural language patterns.
It's similar to how children develop their first language. They hear complete expressions again and again before they fully understand all the individual rules behind them.
That's why we always encourage you not to simply listen to these episodes. Actually shadow them and repeat the sentences out loud.
Your ears need practice, but your mouth needs practice too. The more you say these patterns aloud, the more natural they can become.
All right, let's move on to another common mistake. And this one surprises English learners more than you might expect.
I think I know which one you mean. Are we talking about using a and an correctly?
Exactly. And the interesting part is that the rule isn't really about the letter you see at the beginning of a word.
Right. Most learners first learn that a comes before consonants and an comes before vowels, like a cat and an apple.
That rule works in many cases, but then you meet a word like hour, and suddenly things seem confusing.
Because hour begins with the letter H, you might expect to say a hour, but the H is silent, so the word begins with a vowel sound.
That's why we say an hour, not a hour. We're listening to the sound at the beginning, not simply looking at the first letter.
And the same idea works in the opposite direction. Take the word university, for example. It begins with the vowel letter U.
But when you say it, it starts with a sound like U. That's a consonant sound, so we say a university, not an university.
So this is the part that surprises people. The rule depends on the sound, not just the spelling.
I once explained this to a learner, and after thinking about it for a few seconds, she basically said, "So English is tricking me?"
Honestly, that's a pretty understandable reaction. English spelling and pronunciation don't always match perfectly.
And that's something you become more comfortable with through listening and exposure. The more real English you hear, the easier these patterns become.
And that's another reason shadowing is so useful. You're repeatedly hearing how words actually sound inside natural sentences.
Exactly. Now, let's move to another common mistake, especially one that can change the meaning of what you're saying.
You're talking about the difference between few and a few, right? These two expressions look almost identical, but they don't communicate the same feeling.
Yes, many learners use them as if they mean exactly the same thing, but there is an important difference in the message they give.
A few means a small number, but the feeling is usually positive or neutral. For example, I have a few friends coming to my party tonight.
That means I don't have a huge number of friends coming to my party, but I have enough to make me happy. The situation sounds completely fine.
But when you remove the A and say, I have few friends, the feeling becomes much more negative.
It can suggest that you don't have enough friends and that you're unhappy or disappointed about that situation.
It's amazing how such a tiny word can change the emotional feeling of an entire sentence.
And this is something you may not fully understand by simply memorizing a grammar rule. You need to hear these expressions used naturally.
Exactly. Real conversations help you develop a feeling for these small differences, and shadowing gives you repeated exposure to them. And before we continue, I want to remind everyone listening that you don't need to be too hard on yourself about these mistakes.
Making mistakes doesn't mean you're bad at English. It means you're learning, experimenting, and brave enough to actually use the language.
I completely agree. And there's another mistake that isn't really about grammar at all. It's a mistake in the way many learners think about learning.
You mean stopping yourself from speaking because you're afraid you'll say something incorrectly?
Exactly. That fear can slow your progress much more than making a grammar mistake ever will.
One thing I always remind learners is that the fastest learners aren't necessarily the ones who make no mistakes.
They're often the learners who make mistakes, notice them, learn from them, and then continue speaking instead of giving up.
Every mistake gives your brain another opportunity to notice the difference between what you said and what you actually wanted to say.
And there's an interesting learning concept connected to this called desirable difficulty. Sometimes a little struggle can actually help you remember better.
So when you make an error and then learn the correct version, your brain may work harder to remember that new pattern.
Exactly. That means your mistakes aren't simply problems. They can become part of the process that helps you build stronger language habits.
Honestly, hearing that makes me feel much better about every mistake I've ever made, not just the ones I've made in English.
Let's officially call it a gift from learning science.
But seriously, the message is simple. Keep practicing. keep learning from your mistakes, and don't stop speaking.
And most importantly, keep shadowing. Repetition, listening, and real exposure are some of the best tools you can use to make English feel more natural. All right, let's wrap up today's lesson with a quick review of the most important points we covered.
First, remember the difference between make and do by thinking about creating something versus completing an activity or task.
Second, remember the simple rule for time. For tells us how long something continues, while since tells us when it started.
Third, when you're choosing between a and an, focus on the sound at the beginning of the word, not simply the first letter.
And fourth, remember that a few usually has a more positive or neutral feeling, while few by itself often suggests that there aren't enough.
These may look like tiny details, but paying attention to them can make your English sound much more natural and accurate.
And we have one bonus lesson today. Be patient and kind with yourself while you're learning.
Learning a language takes time, and making mistakes along the way is completely normal. Every mistake can teach you something new.
And the fact that you're here on day 24 tells us that you're serious about improving and committed to your English journey.
You should genuinely be proud of that. We're proud of you too, and we're really grateful that you choose to spend part of your day learning with us.
And we can't wait to continue this challenge with you tomorrow, because day 25 is coming and we have another useful lesson prepared.
Before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Which mistake from today's episode surprised you the most?
Leave your answer in the comments. We genuinely enjoy reading your experiences, and your comments make this learning community even better.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of our 30-day shadowing challenge.
You can also share today's lesson with a friend who's learning English. Practicing together can make the journey even more enjoyable.
And remember, you don't need hours every day. Even 10 or 15 minutes of focused shadowing can make a real difference when you stay consistent.
So keep speaking, keep practicing, and keep learning from every little mistake. We'll be back tomorrow for day 25.
Until then, keep believing in yourself and keep moving forward. You're doing better than you think.
See you tomorrow, everyone. Keep practicing. And remember that English can be easy and enjoyable when you keep showing up.
Bye, everyone. Keep going. We'll see you in the next episode.